The HOA president stood in my driveway at dawn, clipboard in hand, slapping me with a $500 fine for improper storage of automotive waste. But those weren't just any tires, and I, James Carter, wasn't just any homeowner ready to back down. By 6 a.m., I found her violation notice nailed. Yes, nailed, to my garage door, the metal pins scratching the paint into a jagged mess. Accusing me of unsightly vehicle debris for 12 vintage motorcycle tires, heirlooms from my late father, valued at $18,000 to collectors. The real kicker was Eleanor Grayson, the self-crowned queen of Maplewood Heights, strutting past in her pristine yoga gear, smirking like she'd won a war, seeing my modest $310,000 home as a blight on her suburban utopia in Mesa, Arizona. Those tires weren't trash. They were my dad's legacy from 40 years running Carter's cycle shop, and I planned to sell them to fund my mom's memory care. But to Eleanor, with her perfectly manicured nails and silver BMW polished twice weekly, they were working-class junk, threatening her perfect aesthetic, the desert air carrying the scent of sagebrush and fresh injustice. What would you do if someone tried to erase your family's history? 3 years ago, I was retired in Tucson, living off a pension from 30 years repairing naval helicopters, dreaming of road trips with my wife, Clara, until cancer stole her in 7 brutal months, and soon after, my mom started forgetting my dad. Gone for 12 years, so I moved to Maplewood Heights, a Mesa neighborhood of 912 homes, retirees with much time and young families buried in debt. My house the blemish in Eleanor's eyes compared to the community's $420,000 average. Eleanor Grayson, 46, a real estate mogul and HOA tyrant, ruled with an iron grip, her platinum hair sprayed into submission, designer athleisure costing more than my monthly bills, elected president with 19 votes because most thought meetings were just gossip sessions, promising elevated property standards. Translation, conform or suffer. At 6 a.m., the Mesa heat choked the air, mixing with creosote bushes and the crunch of Eleanor's sneakers. As she jogged by, gloating over her power play, my tires, Suzuki Classics to Harley-Davidson Legends, worth $18,000, but to Eleanor, they were a threat to her aesthetic, her bias surgical. Luis Hernandez, a landscaper, got fined $250 for parking his work truck, labeled a commercial vehicle violation, while her friend Margaret parked a 35-foot RV without a peep, and Edith Wong, a 76-year-old widow, was cited $150 for 3 ceramic turtles from her late husband, yet Eleanor's neighbor, with a yard full of boat parts, faced no fines because he drove a Lexus. My fine was $500 for violating Section 11.2c, plus threats of $75 daily penalties and a lien, her handwritten note pure venom. Community standards benefit all. Perhaps a less refined neighborhood suits you better. Standing there, paint flakes under my nails, I felt a familiar calm from my Navy days, the kind before dismantling a system piece by piece. Eleanor thinking she'd cornered a pushover retiree, not knowing she'd declared war on someone who ensured warships didn't crash. 2 days later, I sat in Eleanor's $700,000 living room for the HOA board meeting, feeling like I'd walked into a dictator's court, the polished hardwood echoing like a battlefield, the chandelier buzzing like a warning. 3 board members, Henry, Margaret, and Clive, looking like reluctant minions. Mr. Carter, Eleanor sneered, barely glancing from her agenda. Your appeal regarding the automotive debris violation, but I came armed. Appraisals valuing the tires at $18,000, photos of tidy storage, documentation of their significance. Mrs. Grayson, I said, these are collectibles, not waste. But she cut me off, her perfume sharp as her tone. Sentimental value doesn't override aesthetics, Henry mumbling. The documentation looks solid. Only for Eleanor's glare to crack steel. The fine upheld with 3 puppet hands and a $75 fee for frivolous appeals. Frivolous burned like jet fuel, but I smiled, saying, thank you for clarifying the HOA's stance. I'll document this thoroughly. And the next morning, I turned investigator, camera in hand, cataloging every Maplewood Heights violation. Margaret's RV untouched for 15 months. Clive's junkyard yard clean, but Luis's truck and Edith's turtles sighted, the hypocrisy blatant. Digging deeper, I followed the money. Arizona law demanding uniform enforcement, selective targeting violating the Fair Housing Act. So I filed a complaint with the Arizona Department of Housing, building a federal paper trail. Like investigating a crash. Neighbors whispered to me like I led a resistance. Edith bringing cookies and stories of Eleanor's crusades. Luis sharing evidence of bias. Edith's bombshell revealing the HOA's beautification fund, $52,000 over 4 years, funding no improvements, but Grayson Landscaping. Owned by Eleanor's husband, Vincent, $52,000 for pruning 2 shrubs and replacing a mailbox 3 times, each billed separately. I mailed every homeowner a breakdown of how their fees funded Eleanor's empire, and by noon, 19 neighbors were ready for a class action lawsuit. Eleanor escalated with a letter from Grayson and Partners Legal, threatening a $900 fine and foreclosure within 30 days. Her note in perfect cursive. Cooperation could resolve this swiftly, but she'd miscalculated. And instead of removing the tires, I found a loophole in the 1986 Maplewood Covenant, Section 14.3. Decorative planters and garden features are encouraged to enhance aesthetics. Encouraged, not restricted. I hit Sunrise Nursery, where Maria, the owner, grinned. Tires as planters? Let's make them regret this. Choosing desert zinnias, agave, and trailing verbena to thrive in mesas. Heat, and by noon, my driveway bloomed with 12 tire planters, bursting with color, labeled with hand-painted signs, neighbors stopping to stare, kids giggling at tire flowers, Edith joining with a watering can. Mind if I tend your rebellion garden? Luis donated drip irrigation. Ethan, a 15-year-old neighbor, added solar lights making the gardens glow like a desert mirage. Eleanor, driving by. Daily, her BMW circling like a vulture, snapping photos for non-existent violations, the air smelling of mulch and victory. Channel 10 News called after someone sent photos of my eco-friendly defiance. And standing by my gardens, I told the reporter, the HOA tried to erase my dad's legacy. I turned their rules into art, holding up Eleanor's lien notice. Their covenant encourages planters. I'm just following orders. Creatively, the story going viral. Hashtag tire garden uprising trending. Eleanor's drive-bys growing frantic. Her tires screeching like her unraveling control. Eleanor went nuclear post-broadcast, bombarding me with fines. $250 for unapproved landscaping. $175 for visual disturbance. $125 for maintenance noise. $200 for potential pest habitats. Her handwriting shaky, desperation clear. Then a city code inspection by Bradley Klein, Henry's son, citing environmental hazards. But my Desert Eco Solutions report proved the tires safe. And he fled, muttering, no violations found. Edith revealed Henry's consulting firm pocketed $18,000 for fake health assessments. The corruption a family affair, and I filed for all HOA financials, uncovering $280,000 in illegal fines and $170,000 in shell company contracts. Luis's succulents, Edith's herb garden, and Ethan's science project turned our block into Mesa's most vibrant. Then I overheard Eleanor and Henry panicking. If tire gardens spread, our exclusivity is ruined. Their words, exclusive, not accessible, recorded, a legal landmine. At the Maplewood Community Center, 283 residents packed a room meant for 60. Channel 10 broadcasting live. Eleanor alone, her empire crumbling, and I presented the evidence. Discriminatory fines, fraudulent contracts, $280,000 stolen, saying, Eleanor Grayson turned our community into her piggy bank. The crowd roaring as FBI agent Laura Kim stood. Eleanor Grayson, you're under arrest for wire fraud, tax evasion, racketeering, and housing violations. Handcuffs clicking. The room erupting. Eleanor's final shriek. You don't deserve this community. Sealing her fate on live TV. Edith was elected HOA president with 283 votes, vowing transparency and gardens for all fines refunded, a forensic audit ordered, tire gardens declared environmental innovation, and as Eleanor was led past my glowing planters, The desert zinnias stood like victory flags. 6 months later, Maplewood Heights was unrecognizable. Eleanor serving 18 months in prison. Her husband's business collapsed. Her BMW auction to fund restitution. Edith's leadership making every dollar transparent. 53 Arizona neighborhoods adopting tire gardens. The Maplewood Reform Act capping fines and protecting creativity. My garden's a memorial to Clara and Dad. Drawing 6,000 to our Desert Bloom Festival. Louise consulting on sustainable landscapes. Edith's garden feeding food banks. Ethan winning a scholarship. The Maplewood Scholarship raising $50,000 for low-income students. But a new battle looms in Tempe, where residents face an HOA banning rooftop solar. And tomorrow, Edith and I head there with binders and planters, ready to fight again. Justice blooming where communities dare to grow. What's your worst HOA nightmare? Share below. Right or wrong? Who's the real villain in your community? Comment, subscribe, and hit the bell for our Tempe battle. Let's spark the next uprising together.